I am Prabhakar Rao and we are going to be exploring Mandala Vaatika. Mandala is the Sanskrit name for sacred geometry, and Vaatika, as you know, it's the name given for gardens. So the use of sacred geometry in ancient gardens, that's really what we are going to explore. And why should it be so important? Because sacred geometry, if you explore, you will find that there is a universality to it. All cultures, all religions, all traditions, they have a solid foundation of sacred geometry. You take the Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Phoenicians, the American civilizations of Aztecs, Incas, the Mayas, the Far Eastern civilizations with the Zen Buddhist mandalas, and even the more ancient, the Taoism, the Shintoism, you will find that sacred geometry pervades everything. So therefore, what is it? Is it something that is derived out of our cultures? No. Is it there in the way the architecture of the universe itself is created? Is the structure of DNA have something to do with sacred geometry? Does the way a sunflower, does that have something to do with sacred geometry? Do all the mathematics and the geometry and the formulas, do they have something to do with sacred geometry? Now, these are the exciting things that we will explore in the first part of this webinar on Mandala Vaatika. In the second part of Mandala Vaatika, we will explore the use of sacred geometry in the Indian tradition, in the Vedic tradition. You know, the Vedic tradition existed at least 5,000 years ago, but today the researchers are talking about 10,000 years ago. And these are the civilizations that thrived and flourished from Haryana to Punjab, and then the Mohenjo-daro and the Harappa civilizations. It is in that belt, the belt along the mythical river Saraswati. They were an extraordinarily advanced civilization in their understanding of the nature of reality. They understood certain fundamental truths that even today humanity is in the quest of. And they used a lot of sacred geometry, and one of the pinnacles in the evolution of sacred geometry in the Indian culture would be the Shri Chakra or the Shri Yantra that you see in the green screen behind me. And in this tradition of the Shri Chakra and the Shri Yantra, you know, the tradition which explored that aspect of spirituality and spiritual development, it is, I would say, the mother of all sacred geometry. So any of the Western traditions that you take, like for example, the Flower of Life or the Star of David, you know, all these can be derived from the Shri Chakra itself. Anything, you take the arabesque, the motifs from Andalusia and Spain, you take the Moroccan traditions of their very, very fine geometric forms. You take the Zen cultures where they use geometry in a very different way to mimic and replicate nature itself. All those geometries, you can root it from the primordial Shri Chakra. Here we are trying to understand why sacred geometry was used in Indian Vedic gardens. This is going to be the focus of the second part of this webinar, which will focus on how plants and trees, each of them have a certain vibration, and that is actually proven by science as well. Today we have so many machines that can actually hear what frequencies the plants are emitting, to the extent some people say that, you know, the plants will be singing, so you can hear the song of the plants. So you find there is tremendous amount of work that's being done to know that Each specific species of plant comes with its own vibration. Now, geometry itself is based on vibrations, and that is the next part. The third part of the webinar will be understanding how science can create patterns. The science is called
cymatics.
How sounds like ah, oo, om, heem, cream, clean, so, they sound very much like Bij mantras, right? How these sounds can actually create patterns. They generate frequencies which result in patterns appearing from nowhere, where we will actually see how sounds can create geometry. And then by using the geometry, the sounds and the plants, how we can explore deeper levels of consciousness. In part 4 of this webinar, we get into another aspect of Mandala Vaatika, where the ancients understood limitations, because not everybody has the luxury of planting an actual garden in physical space over a couple of acres of land based on sacred geometry, waiting for, let us say, 20-30 years for those trees to grow and then meditate under that. They did that, but they knew that there was a limitation to it, because, the whole time and space, constraints on that. Therefore, they developed something very beautiful. Plant parts are offered in a specific sequence with specific sounds and mantras. Now, all that creates vibrations which are said to open portals, where we can experience the deeper levels of existence, deeper levels of consciousness, and get a peek into the ultimate nature of all reality. So in the 4th part of this webinar, we will actually teach you how to draw tabletop on a piece of paper, how to draw that mandala, and then how to populate it with the plants, with very specific frequencies. And then there are very simple chants. And then there is a meditation that will come with this. So it's a tabletop Mandala Vaatika that will be created, which is nothing but a miniaturized Mandala Vaatika that would actually have been at some point of time in physical space, huge gardens based on sacred geometry in the ancient times. So you will have a tabletop version of that on which you would be able to chant or listen to chants and then go through a set of guided meditations. So in a nutshell, this is what Mandala Vaatika is all about. This particular course will be conducted through webinars. We will provide you not just your participation in the webinar, but also we provide you soft copies of way to draw those particular mandalas, the soft copy which has the details of all the plants, how to identify the plant in your garden or outside, what kind of plant part you bring. You will also have video recordings and audio recordings of the chants, and all that will be packaged and given to you so that you can revive this ancient science of Mandala Vaatika in the confines of your homes, in the comfort of your homes, and experience what the ancients experienced in those distant days of the past, in the Vedic traditions, where they would actually sit in these gardens, meditate, and get a peek at the underlying nature of all reality.